Homelessness has many faces, many contributors, and many ripple effects. Domestic violence, mental illness, drugs, job loss, evictions, felonies, just to name a few. And while there's no single cause of homelessness, there are two common denominators. The first is a loss of community, like family and friends, that's left the person abandoned and alone, with no one to turn to. The second is deep personal trauma that's left them wounded and vulnerable. At the end of the day, people experiencing homelessness in our community are asking us two basic questions. Are you going to be the next group to break trust and abandon me? Or are you going to build trust and help me find community? And are you going to add to my trauma? Or are you going to help me heal? They need our help and our fearless compassion. They can't do it themselves. If they could, they wouldn't be in a warming center or standing under an overpass in a snowstorm. And no one deserves to die cold and alone on the streets of our community. We're better than that. And that's what this documentary is all about.
This was the only place for me to go to after living in a hotel and in a car after my grandmother's in-laws kicked us out of the house, and we had no other place to go. And we went from here to Catholic Charities, because at first she ended up in the hospital from here, and then we went to Catholic Charities where they had us on mats, and then she ended up back in the hospital that same night, extremely sick, and I ended up staying here, and they have been so very nice to me. And one of the workers here helped me get into a place, so we're moving tomorrow into a place. And I just want to thank this whole entire team for looking out for me when nobody else would.
What makes the Cannon Street Warming Center unique is that it's a low barrier shelter that accepts anyone, regardless of their level of need. A low barrier shelter serves this most vulnerable population as a backstop when everything else has failed, and when everyone else has given up, and when the chronically homeless have lost hope and have nowhere else to go to restart their journey back to stability. If you and I question the need for such a low barrier shelter, then Mariah Hodges should erase all of our doubts.
My name is Mariah. I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. Hi. I've been staying here for a little over a month, about 6 weeks. Been sober since they picked me up off the doorstep. And so it's a month off of meth and a year and a half off of alcohol. And we went through a fire. There's no real recovery from a fire when you lose everything. We don't have friends or family out here, so we ended up showing up here, and I'll never forget that night. Some great crew members were working, and they had us come in. They got us something to eat and drink, and they've done everything but find clothes that are just extremely comfortable due to the recovery. I spent about 2 months in Seattle, and when we came back, we had nowhere to go. Unfortunately, there's very limited resources for our situation. As far as housing or anything like that, it's just we have to get on our feet first, and that's limited here. The center it's warm, it's kind. My stuff is protected. I can leave it here when we look for jobs, grocery shopping. Everybody's interested in the well-being and the welfare. They're helping us find the resources out there for housing. We've tried SNAP. They've helped me go through SNAP. They took me to DSHS so I could apply for the ABD in 10. And now the staff is currently working on trying to find housing that will work with the situation I'm in while I'm currently applying for disability, since I did lose mobility in my hand. Not everybody fits a typical homeless, stereotypical where they're doing drugs or anything like that. We're really struggling. If you don't have a home phone or an address, nobody will hire you. You have to do everything online. So you may go to the library and apply for a job, but if you don't have a current home address or phone, they have no way to contact you. But they provide the address, we can get mail here. So therefore, when we order our IDs or our food stamp paperwork or anything, we'll come here and it's safe. They'll find us, they get to know us individually, they get to know us personally, greet us every day, find out how we're doing. If it wasn't for them, I mean, it's really cold out here, and I really don't think I'd be making it. So other places, they have diseases, and just with my immune system, I have to be somewhere healthy, and they provide that.
I just got my first paycheck and opened up a savings account, and I'm on my way to saving for a vehicle and a place.
How does it feel?
It feels amazing. I'm so glad these people gave me a chance. It feels really good. I haven't worked in like a year. So
your recovery is coming along?
my recovery is coming along great. Instead of being in a hotel room, I'm here staying clean and sober and getting ready to enjoy this party. Thank you.
This warming center is important because it changes the lives of people every single day. These people come to us with no motivation to continue getting through their own struggles to better their life. And when they find out that they're not alone because they have somewhere to go and people who genuinely care about them, suddenly they spark a new motivation to get through their trauma and find help and resources and move forward with their life.
So many people, I think 100 people a night that are being housed here out of the cold. They've been given food, they're being given shelter, and compassion most of all. It's just important to know that really you're maybe one crappy situation away from being here yourself. And so anything that I can do to help, I'm here to do.
When I was small, I was probably 10 or 12, my mom was a sign language interpreter, and she would make us sign only during like dinners or just at home in general. I had no idea that he was deaf. I woke him up about 6 or 7 times, and then he woke up a little angry. And then everybody told me he was deaf, and I have respected that ever since. But I also make a point to go and tell him, wake him, when lunch and dinner is being served, or breakfast, because he can't hear that. He can't hear the announcements that we make. He doesn't know he's supposed to wake up and go outside.
Historically, the difference between a homeless shelter and a low-barrier warming center has been the difference between full service for those who qualify for a traditional shelter and minimal services for those who don't. Shelters offer beds and meals, along with requirements for people wanting to stay and programs to help residents move forward. Warming centers, on the other hand, represent an exercise in minimalism, a 12-hour shelter that puts people on floor mats at night and requires them to leave by 7 a.m. the next morning, spending the rest of their day wandering the streets of the city. In the winter of 2018-2019, the city of Spokane was confronted with a choice between having homeless camps on the sidewalk in front of City Hall or opening a low-barrier warming center for people living on the street who couldn't meet the requirements for staying at a local shelter. Many of the chronic street homeless have been banned from local shelters for reasons such as substance abuse, mental conditions, bad behavior, or acute physical or medical issues which the shelters are unequipped to handle. A recent article in the Spokesman Review newspaper framed the question. Spokane city leaders ask, when shelter isn't an option, where do the homeless turn? I first met the answer to that question on a January evening in 2019 in a warming center where my film crew and I were filming the annual Point in Time count. It was my first encounter with this force of nature named Julie Garcia.
My daughter's a heroin addict, so she's out here. Sometimes she's sober, sometimes she's not. Currently she's sober for about 30 days now, but this is where she lives. This is what she does. I spend my days finding her, and these guys help me. You know, if they see her, they call me, and I come get her. She's 23. I raised my 3-year-old granddaughter, so I know what this life is. I know what these guys struggle with. I know what addiction and mental health, what problems they have in the community, you know, and what resources aren't available to them.
Fast forward 10 months. Julie Garcia had gone from being a volunteer feeding in a warming center and a mom searching for her homeless and drug-addicted daughter to the director of a nonprofit chosen by the city of Spokane to operate a low-barrier warming center in the very building where I had met her 10 months earlier. Having followed Julie's journey during the 10 months since we first met, I wanted to be present for opening day. Getting the warming center open had been a battle, and the stress of the preceding weeks was evident in the face I had come to know.
It's been a long road to here, but so worth it. To be able to bring these guys in tonight and have them come into this place, not any other place, just this place tonight, and be able to show them a sense of community and give them care and let them be able to sleep on a bed and get a good night's sleep for once in a really long, long time. I don't want you infecting folks. Haley, she has pneumonia, don't wake her up.
Having known Julie Garcia for about a year, I already knew she was a force to be reckoned with, but I had no idea what a force she really was until I followed her around for a week.
Yeah, reduced fare.
Reduced fare.
And that would be amazing for even us nonprofits who have to buy this.
Good morning, Miss Julie.
How are you, brother?
Great, can't complain.
You want that cinnamon roll I heard? These are our only ADA accessible beds. The 6 down here on the bottom because we don't have a ramp.
I love that purse. I like that.
My leg purse, I'm making it a thing. Remember, Diamond is coming in tonight. If he passes, you have to drug test him tomorrow, and then let's get him on some shifts. What else? You want 2 of those? Uh-huh.
Pastor Allen said he was a good friend.
A and B? Really? You had to get both flues? Yeah, these are all hair dye, but they're used.
That purse is comfortable.
She's sleeping pretty good.
We're gonna put Cha-Cha in.
I said, well, we could do the whole laundry area for $12,000 and it would save the city an unbelievable amount of money. I'm happy you're here.
I'm happy to be here. You run a really good place.
Thank you, brother.
3 months after the November opening, Julie's passion and drive had transformed the warming center into her vision of a safe, trusting, and healing community, bringing shalom to people who have experienced very little peace in their lives. I wanted to know how she managed to go from being a mom and a volunteer handing out sandwiches to leading a nonprofit and running a homeless warming center.
Well, it's so different. When you're out on outreach on the street, you see people for short periods of time. You know, you can come back and you can know their story. But when you do this, we're actually living together. That's a big learning curve for all of us. Things that we aren't aware of that we never knew, now we know, and we're learning and trying to change with that as we go. We've never run a shelter. I've never been an employer before.
But Julie didn't let her lack of experience stop her, and her growing list of successes clearly demonstrates impressive intuitive abilities and leadership gifts, not to mention a deep personal reservoir of compassion toward those in need. There's nothing like a road trip to start a conversation. So, on a supply trip to pick up food, Julie opened up about why she fights so passionately for the invisible among us, and why she pours her heart and soul into what can only be described as their last resort.
Low barrier shelters are important because if you are currently using, you have now limited the places you can go for the night. If you are currently using and in crisis, you've narrowed that down to about 2. When then you take into consideration barriers like men and women, gender, anything like that, you're limiting places altogether. That's why low barrier is important. That's what we see on a regular basis is the people that have been banned or kicked out from everywhere else. This truly is the last place that they can go for the night. And I just really, for my own personal self, believe the punishment for not adhering to the rules can't be death. That's not appropriate for me to determine. So we let people in whatever condition they're in, because tonight may be the night that they overdose, or tonight may be the night that they freeze to death. They don't have a support system, somebody that they can come to and just pour out their problems to. I can't help everybody's situation. I'm not a counselor, but I can listen to what they have to say. And when they trust me, they trust me enough to send them out to resources I know will help them. And they'll take your advice at that point. For the most part, you can walk up to a random person on the street and say, well, your addiction's got a little out of control at this point, you know, and they're gonna tell you to F off and leave. But if you have a relationship built, you can say, man, I really see the decline happening right now. Is there something that we can do to help you? You know, can we get you in touch with somebody who is willing to speak with you? But that's the first step to getting them comfortable with the resource that we're providing for them. I don't get paid or do this for telling people how to live their life. I can only be the example and show a different way to do things and offer them hope. That's really all I have to offer them at this point, is hope that there's better someday. We still believe in you. You haven't lost your worth. You're still worthy of all of the things that everybody else is worthy of. And you just lost your way for a little while. That happens to all of us.
After watching warming centers come and go over the years in Spokane, and then spending extended time at the Cannon Street Warming Center, I've come to a conclusion that the secret to a successful low-barrier warming center isn't the building, the location, or the public policy, but the person. The secret to a successful low-barrier warming center is someone at the helm who's driven by fearless compassion, an unshakable vision, dogged determination, and a genuine, unconditional love for struggling people whom the rest of society has written off as either unredeemable or disposable. Robert F. Kennedy once said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask, why not?" To operate a truly successful warming center, you have to be someone who dreams of things that never were and who's willing to pay the price for pursuing the dream.
I have a drive and a passion for this. I'm a certified recovery coach from CCAR, and that's in between a chemical dependency counselor and a sponsor from a 12-step program. I've worked at a boys ranch for troubled youth, which I've learned a lot from that. And I just have a lot of human compassion. And I'm a recovering drug addict with almost 6 years clean. And I work on myself every single day. That's what I have to do to be able to do this.
Ever wonder what it takes to operate a low-barrier homeless shelter on a daily basis? Like your house and family, a shelter has a daily life cycle and routine, and Cannon is no exception. Routine is the rhythm of life in your house, and routine is the rhythm of life in a homeless shelter, especially one which runs 24/7. Welcome to a day in the life of the Cannon Street Warming Center, the place 90 men and women call home. This is the rhythm of their life.
We are a night-by-night, stay-by-stay place. We're low barriers, so anybody in any condition can come. Same as HOC, the city actually considers House of Charity a warming center as well, because they are night-by-night, they don't save beds, and people can check in and check out.
Hi, bud. Hi, have you stayed with us before? No? What's your name? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna walk you through our rules. No drugs, no alcohol, no weapons of any kind. We understand you may be using, but please don't do it on the premises, okay? We do serve dinner. Once you check
Our capacity is a total of 98 people in this building, including all of staff. We've lowered our staff down to the minimum amount we can have, so that increases the number of beds, which is 93 actual beds that we have. Every night we have a wait list from about 10 to 12 people that will stand outside hoping to get in sometime in the night, whether or not somebody gets up and leaves or somebody can't maintain themselves through the night and gets kicked out. Those guys are here waiting for a bed. And we bus everybody to different centers. City Gate for our women, HOC, we have Truth, and UGM. So we bus to all four of those places. Some people that usually stay are the people that are banned from all of those places and just waiting for a bed. So they start their day at 7 with lights on. At 7:30 they go outside. We do serve coffee outside at that time, but they are forced to stay out there until we're done cleaning.
Disinfect everything, spray everything, bleach everything, change the linen, sweep, mop, disinfect all the water stations. Hopefully we get them back in within 40 minutes usually. You know, that's our goal. Yesterday, the day before, we did it in like 30. So it was like super exciting because it's cold out there.
Then they come back in, they have breakfast about 8:30. People come in and out throughout the day. Lunch is served at noon. At 2, everybody goes back outside, gathers all their things together, stands in line until we clean and do check-in again where they can check into a bed. And then the rest of the evening they will be on that bed.
A day in the life of the Cannon Street Warming Center is filled with a steady stream of nonstop activity, all designed to meet the practical needs and to protect the safety of the residents who call the shelter home.
We change all of the bed linen twice a day. So we change from night linen to day linen. We put the white sheets over the top of our mattresses so that people can lay down wherever. There's no assigned bed, so anyone can lay down wherever they want. But we do an amazing amount of laundry every day. So this would be more effective if we had a laundry facility here. Otherwise, we're spending about $12,000 a month to do laundry. This is one laundry from overnight. So Judy's Closet came out today. They pick up donations of clothing all week long, and then they come and bring it to our guests, hand it out, and have conversations.
My name's Judy, and I make sure that I get the message out to my friends that I want donations, and they deliver them to my house, and then I come here as often as I can and make deliveries.
Yeah, things go quickly. There's a big need for clothing.
And Judy helps us here, but she also does street outreach too. So people out on the street, they know who she is and they know where to come for help. So cleaning, it's super important out here because people are spitting, but we all sleep on the same bed, so anything they get on their shoes, they're bringing in, any kind of germs. So he just comes through about once or twice a week and he'll power wash with bleach everything out here. That way it's clean and sanitary. As clean and sanitary as we can make the outside anyway. We don't let them bring in any bedding, any pillows, blankets, nothing like that, just to keep bed bugs down to a minimum. So we'll give them blankets, we have sheets, but their bedding needs to be bagged outside. And then we have a company that comes in and it heat treats both of those units so that when they get it back, if they did have bed bugs or body lice, anything that we see on a regular basis, hopefully it's gone. So 25 of our 31 employees all have lived experience. They're all people with barriers to employment that normally wouldn't be able to access a job like this. So what we did was lowered our employment barriers. We now have 2 main ones. One is that you're not currently using and that you have no crimes against a person. So any kind of violent crime against another human is something that will disqualify you from working with any vulnerable population. So we've used that as one of our barriers. Other than that, we do reserve the right to drug test at any time. We actually have 5 random drug tests tomorrow. We are patient employers, so we're able to teach people who have not been in the workforce for a really long time. We're able to be patient and have time to teach them how to interact with not only our guests, but other staff, so that when they're done with their employment here, whether it's because we close or they've decided to move on to something else, they have something to put on their resume, some kind of experience, and they're employable at the time that they leave us. This is my good friend Bob Peeler. He is the SNAP outreach worker. He comes into our center on a regular basis to talk with our clients and help them find housing. Here at Cannon, we've had 18 people now. I guess they count as 2, so 20. 20 people receive housing in the 3 months that we've been open. Today we're going to get housing for a grandmother and her disabled granddaughter.
very vulnerable, very, very vulnerable.
And Bob has worked very hard to arrange housing for them.
It's been a partnership. Catholic Charity's going to pay the full deposit, and
we're paying the prorated rent.
You're paying the prorated rent.
So that they can move in tomorrow.
I've seen a lot of people here that need to be inside because of their vulnerability, because of their illness, because of their social anxiety. This lessens that issue than being in a camp.
And the grandmother and granddaughter really need more care than we can provide here. This is not the best place for them, but it is their only place at the moment.
It's the safest place for them to be. You know, what's amazing about the 20 people house is there's no housing. We got less than 1.5% vacancy rate, so when a unit comes available, there's 20 people applying for it. We can throw money at it, but we can't get them housed.
Where are we going now?
We're going to Costco. Costco donates to us on Sunday afternoon and Monday morning. They give us all of their bread that's about to be expired. So we get bread, rolls, and desserts twice a week from Costco. Our goal is to use repurposed food for everything. That way we can cut our food costs down. The average cost for food and meals in the United States is $4.35 per person per day. And we've, using repurposed food, cut our budget down to $1 per person for 3 meals a day. So that's a big difference for us and for the taxpayers who fund us. So we give them the name of our nonprofit and they have our cart ready to go. We battle with the church ladies on Sunday because we have to split our donations. So we try to get here before them so we can split it equally.
I understand if they had some help, their lives could be vastly different. We need to look at each one because it's not a one-size-fits-all story. We need to build capacity, but we need to provide services to help the people who want to move on to the next step in their life. So I'm thankful they're here. The people are thankful they're here. And really the city of Spokane should be thankful they're here. Because really without this center or other warming centers, our city is not the city of welcoming. It's not a welcoming city. I really believe as a city, we have the capacity to do better. We just have to get together and do it.
We're doing something down here that hasn't been done before. People might have tried it, but it never worked for them because they didn't have the heart for it. They didn't have the understanding.
A traditional low-barrier warming center normally sets a very low bar for measuring success. Perhaps nothing more than the number of people sleeping on mats every night. The higher the number, the greater the success. But the Cannon Street Warming Center under Jules' helping hands raised that bar, measuring their success by such tangible metrics as the number of homeless guests who found jobs, the number of people who exited to stable housing, the number of guests who moved from addiction to sobriety, and the number of community partners who stepped up to provide such things as food or clothes. But Cannon also had a more basic and human metric that we can all appreciate. Welcome to a homeless block party, celebrating success, sobriety, housing, employment, community, and great food.
My name's Diamond. I've been working here for about 2 weeks now. I've been clean for about 3 weeks. I've been homeless for about 2 years. It's an intravenous user, meth and heroin. I'm just trying to get up on my feet, man. I want some responsibility. I want to be independent, and I want to get up off these streets. And Jules is helping me do that. Thank you, Jules.
Thanks, brother.
We love you,
I'm Brandis, and I've been an addict, alcoholic for, I don't know, since I was about 11. I'm 25 now. So it's been a rough life, been homeless for 2 years. I'm tired of that. Being here is helping me have a stable foundation where I can go to my IOP and work my program. And I'm gonna keep doing that.
Hey, I'm Bree. I've been using drugs and alcohol on and off from age 14 up until 2.5 months ago. I was homeless from 16 up until January of this year. I was in recovery prior to that. I went to the hospital because of my drinking and drug use, and that didn't stop me, obviously. But after I started working here and I met everybody, I'm gonna cry. God damn it. My life changed. And it was you guys.
We love you, Bree.
And I love you guys a lot.
Thanks, Bree.
Thanks, Bree.
Days like today are amazing to me. They are the best days of the world. We have music playing, we have people dancing, there's people smiling and laughing. This is the community that we were always trying to create when we did outreach, which is why we'd bring the showers, we would bring food, and we would bring music. Because if you can provide food and music, it's like a backyard picnic with your family. And that's the community that I feel right now. Is everybody's just, it's a big family right now. Everybody's having a good time, everybody's dancing and smiling.
It makes my heart happy. That we didn't know how a sense of community we could build with this many people. We've built it out on the street in relationships, but watching it happen here, it proves to us what we do works and that love is always the answer.
We were worried about being able to create community. Was it going to work? We know it works, but how do we do it? How do we implement it? And watching it happen, this is just an example of it in motion. People caring about each other, wanting to talk to each other, hang out together. No one's fighting, no one's arguing. It's just people together. And they feel like a family. And that's what they are, is one big family, one big support system.
This is what community and success for the residents at Cannon looked like on the eve before life changed for all of us, and especially for the homeless community.
I had OD'd 3 times in April, and it was either time to change or quit living. That's how I felt. So I got into drug court and really tried to stay clean, and actually succeeded this time. I'm a 13-year heroin and meth IV user. I've been to 9 different treatments, and I thought it was impossible to get clean. I'd given up on the thought of getting clean. And since I've started working here at the Cannon Street Warming Center, my life has definitely changed tremendously. I get to come in and help people in the position that I used to be in, and I thought I would remain in forever. I've worked myself out of the despair and the nightmare that I was stuck in for years.
You injected to get the fever after that? Any cough, anything else going on? You definitely got a fever. The other thing is, could you have coronavirus? Okay, I want to put this on your finger, okay, to get a sense of your pulse and how good your oxygen's doing, okay? What's your name, ma'am? Georgia? It may be cotton fever, it may not be. Your heart rate's going really fast, 133. Can I see your hands? You just had fevers since yesterday, you said? Yeah. Do you have any pains in your joints? Any muscle aches? Yeah. Those are all things that are pretty concerning for having coronavirus. So my name is Dr. Luis Manriquez. I'm a family physician, helping set up the street medicine team with TJ, Chaz, WSU College of Medicine, and the Regional Health District, Jules Helping Hands here. Basically, we're reaching out to check in on people who wouldn't otherwise be seen, who wouldn't otherwise receive care because of, for whatever reason, they don't want to go in to be seen. They're suspicious of the healthcare system, or they're, have been discharged from the healthcare system.
While we were filming this documentary, the coronavirus pandemic hit the news, and life quickly changed for all of us, including the homeless community and shelters like Cannon. We interviewed Julie Garcia roughly 10 days before the state of Washington issued a statewide shelter-in-place order. But the shelter was already making changes to distance and isolate guests as needed.
So this is basically what we call coronavirus triage. We have people coming in every day. When they walk through the door, they fill out a form, we assess them, we take their temperature, their O2 stats. We find out if they have a fever, a cough, a rash, anything that we should be concerned with, and then we decide whether or not they can go into our regular population or into our quarantine area. If they're in our quarantine area, it just means we're watching them, and if we have to send them out, we will. We're gonna put tents inside of the tents. That's our plan for tonight. We had 129 people checked in last night. There's 129 checked in for our day services. Tonight we're expecting they're gonna close down the STA Plaza lobby, and they're releasing people from jail. That's all people that don't have places to go tonight. I can expect that they're all gonna show up here, and we're gonna need to find shelter beds available.
We're disinfecting 4 or 5 times a day. We're sending people out. We're feeding people outside where it's sunny out. Our day-to-day routine has been turned upside down because we have to have our beds 6 feet apart, our mats 6 feet apart, and the people sleeping head to foot, which means we had to eliminate our mats and set tents up outside with the 6 feet away rule to deal with all this. We're still at capacity and more, so it's chaos right now. It's chaos and it's kind of stressful.
We were also present when representatives from the Spokane Regional Health District visited the shelter to check on procedures and to offer advice on how best to keep everyone safe.
We're working on trying to ensure that we have more protection for the homeless by ensuring that there's more spacing, and less crowding in the shelters. And part of what needs to happen with that is we're working with the city to find other sites that we can open up, to increase capacity, so that we're minimizing, the crowding of people in shelters, and that will minimize the risk of transmission occurring or outbreaks occurring in a shelter setting.
They like the tents outside because it is when and if we get cases, that will be the best place to quarantine them, where it's in open air. The weather is holding up nicely. I looked at the 15-day forecast. It looks like we're in the 50s, still getting down into the 20s at night, but not something that we can't maintain with blankets and heaters.
As social distancing began to take hold, it quickly became apparent that more shelter space would be needed. The city opened up the first floor of the downtown public library for additional bed space and social distancing. But this also highlighted a long-standing fracture in the shelter system. Our city has never had adequate available shelter beds to accommodate the need during normal times. Makeshift tent camps outside of the Cannon Street Warming Center early in this crisis gave visible, tangible evidence of this long-standing fracture in the shelter system. The fragile shalom of the homeless community and the shelters that serve them was quickly shattered by this crisis. Perhaps when this crisis is over, you and I may discover that the great pandemic of 2020 was a test, not only of our medical system, but of our faith and compassion as a community toward those who most need our faith and compassion to lean on in difficult times. And little did we know at the time that the fractured shalom of the homeless community was about to get worse.
I think what separates Cannon from the other centers, and specifically, is that we build more of a stronger sense of community here. We work one-on-one, we build relationships and friendships with our residents, guests. I think it's important that we stay because we've kind of built a foundation for these people, and consistency and relationships, and I think that it's very important for us to remain consistent with them so we can better their lives. Low barrier is important because we have to build independence for these people, and we have to allow them the ability to make their own choices for the good of their lives. When we start implementing rules that they don't want to follow, they will choose other lifestyles. And we've proven here that giving people the ability to make the right choices, 9 times out of 10, they do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna try not to cry through this with you guys, but we are closing the library and Cannon tomorrow. Both are gonna be closed. No, we have no beds for the 110 guests that we have here.
The city's contract with Jules Helping Hands to operate the Cannon Street Warming Center had always been scheduled to end at midnight on Thursday, April 30th. Because of the governor's statewide coronavirus stay-at-home order, expectations were that the contract would be temporarily extended. But on Wednesday, April the 29th, the city of Spokane informed Jules Helping Hands that their contract would not be extended and that the city planned to close the shelter for renovations. The 110 residents would be displaced with nowhere to go. After all, it was the shelter nobody wanted, and allowing it to end with the expiration of the contract seemed like a simple solution. We were present that evening when Julie announced the shelter closing to the staff and residents.
I want to tell you what you guys have managed to do for the last 6 months. For 6 months, the people that the city said couldn't do anything ran 2 shelters. You guys kicked ass, you made it happen, and you worked hard. We didn't have any more problems than any other shelters had. We had no major incidents, and nobody died in our 6 months. With that being said, you guys have done amazing things, more than I could have ever imagined. You guys have stayed sober. You guys have stayed consistent. You guys have built relationships. And these guys love, depend, and count on all of you.
Thursday morning, in the absence of any communication or plan from the city, Jules Helping Hands arranged individual tents for all the residents who had nowhere else to go, and a tent encampment began to form in nearby Coeur d'Alene Park. Behind the scenes and out of sight of news cameras, homeless advocates were at work trying to make a difference and to save 110 shelter beds.
At that point, the city had not communicated with the operators of the warming center. They hadn't communicated with the people staying at the warming center or anybody in the community about any plans.
I was contacted by an attorney from Olympia who said that warming center was a facility that was covered under the governor's proclamation and that they would be looking into it. And we are thankful that we have a governor that thought of people who are experiencing homelessness and knew that they are just as vulnerable, if not more, from this deadly virus that's spreading amongst us in our state, that everybody needed to be protected.
So on point, over the last 3 years, what we've seen is unpreparedness by the city. They close warming centers, they don't open them on time. It's all just a lack of preparation and a lack of feeling that these people are important. And Jules Helping Hands and operating Cannon Street showed there's a better way to do it. That's why, in particular, they should be one of the operators of warming centers in our community. People deserve respect and human dignity.
At 1 p.m. on Thursday, the city contacted another nonprofit and announced hastily made plans for the shelter to remain open, but under a different operator. Residents were allowed to return to the Cannon Street Center Thursday night, which is where we caught up with Julie Garcia to get her thoughts on the day's twists and turns.
I'm tired, Maurice. Fighting with the city should not happen during city contracts. All that needed to be done was an email explaining this is what happens, here's the times you need to leave, here's when you can get your things, no, people can't be at this address. We addressed this with the city last night. We asked specifically, where do we take 110 people, or where do we tell them to go? And they told us they did not have a plan yet. What are we supposed to do at that point? Just sit here and hope that they have somewhere to sleep tonight? We have to act, so we purchased tents. The city said that we are in violation of our contract because we didn't stay and keep everybody here till 11:59 and then kick them out. All we do is serve homeless people where they're at. We don't ask for anything more than that. Give us the space to serve people that need us. And these guys need us. When you're standing in front of 60 police and people are yelling, We want to go home with Jules. It breaks my heart to hear that because I know that tomorrow I'm not going to be there for them. I will always be out on the street with them. 7 nights a week I will wander around and feed them. But people don't understand when you build connections, this is their family and this is their home. They live at 527 South Cannon and this is where they belong right now. It's where they feel safe. It's where they have support. We're here to make sure that no matter who you are, no matter your circumstance, no matter your situation, I can agree with you or I don't have to agree with you. But I'm going to welcome you in, I'm going to give you a bed, and you're going to be safe tonight. And that's all I care about.
We began this documentary by reflecting on the 2 common denominators of homelessness: loss of community, resulting in broken trust and abandonment, and deep personal trauma. Perhaps the worst and most long-lasting impact of the city's actions surrounding the closing of Cannon was the reinforcement of those 2 common denominators. Once again, the homeless experienced a loss of community, broken trust, and a sense of abandonment. And in the process, already traumatized individuals were needlessly traumatized again by those responsible for implementing homeless policy in the city. With time to process these events, we're faced with the painful truth that when it comes to those experiencing homelessness and those who serve them, the shalom of our community has been broken, shattered by people claiming to be in charge of fixing it. If shalom is the way things ought to be, then what we've witnessed is not the way things ought to be. Welcome to what broken shalom, broken trust, abandonment, and trauma look like in the homeless community. How we as a community will restore broken trust, heal the trauma, and bring genuine shalom to the homeless and to ourselves will be the critical question moving forward, and each of us will need to be part of the answer.
But this is everything right here. This is a warm place. It's dry, it's safe, and the staff really do care. Without this place, we have nothing, and we need this place.